Hello, and welcome to the Human Blueprint Podcast. This is a podcast exploring the framework of personal growth, self-discovery, and resilience. Through relatable stories, humor, and actionable advice, we're going to tackle life's challenges to help you build a life of courage, confidence, and connection. I'm your host, Laura Dahl. Today's topic is giving yourself the love you deserve. I chose this topic because I know so many of my friends, including myself, who are really bad about self-care, about self-confidence. They don't really like themselves very much. And, I'll start with the quote that they say, you can't pour from an empty cup. When you're on an airplane, they tell you that you've got to secure your mask first before putting on your baby's mask or your children's or your husband's or wife's or whatever. And I'll just tell you that, this topic is really important to me because I believe that it is foundational to our well-being. This concept of loving yourself or giving yourself the love that you deserve is really based on the fact that we are so kind and so helpful to other people. We will cross oceans to help our friends. Usually if people ask us to do things, we are the first ones to show up. But we don't really take the time to care for ourselves. So this episode is going to explore ways that we can give ourselves the love that we think we deserve. We're going to explore positive self-talk and the implications of that. And we're going to talk about just ways that you could just be kinder to yourself. So let's dive in. So why do we struggle with self-love? I think that we have a lot of societal pressures on us to be perfect. I think that, we live in a social media world where we are constantly looking at everyone's perfect lives on social media and comparing ourselves to them. We're smart enough to know that that's not reality. We're smart enough to know that what people show us is the version of themselves that they want us to see. But the reality is that we still look at it and we still strive for it or compare ourselves to it. Quite frankly, we also process the things that we've been exposed to, the things that have been said to us, the environment in which we've grown up in, and what our parents have fostered in us regarding our self-confidence and the way we feel about ourselves. But I do think that we're not really good at taking care of ourselves because we don't really know how. If you're like me, you grew up with a lot of trauma at a very young age. You grew up just fighting against the world every day. And I lived in survival mode most of my life. And that made it really hard for me to learn how to love myself. I am a 2 on the Enneagram scale. If you're not familiar with the Enneagram scale, I would encourage you to Google it. But I'm a 2, which means I'm a helper. And I feel love by being needed by other people. So it is not first nature. It is not common for me to ask myself, what do I need for me? How do I take care of myself? How do I, put my own oxygen mask on first before jumping in and diving in to help others? Because that's not second nature to me. That is actually the opposite of how I operate and how I navigate through the world. So I think for some of us, it's just the fact that we need to be needed by others, and we're not sure how to actually take care of ourselves. We're used to taking care of others. I think the other part is that we are our worst critics. I think that, we have a dialogue inside of our head that is not really accurate. It is not reality sometimes. I think that sometimes we tell ourselves lies. I call that negative self-talk, period. I did not grow up in a home where I was very lucky. I did not grow up in a home where my mother would look at herself in the mirror and talk. That's her behind me, actually. If you're watching on YouTube, that is a picture of my mom on my wall behind me. I lost her in 2016. But I did not grow up in a home where I listened to my mom look in the mirror and say unkind things to herself. My mom was a very confident woman, not arrogant, but my mom knew she was beautiful. My mom had kind of a sex appeal, if you will. She was very confident in her intelligence. She was not educated. She had a GED. She from high school. She was a very young mom, and she went to community college, but she did not have a bachelor's degree. She just was very well read, and she had a lot of street smarts. But my mom, you know, she just did not teach me to look at myself in the mirror and say bad things about myself, like, oh, my face is so puffy, or oh, look at how swollen my eyes are, or I don't like the way my body looks. And I have always been a bigger girl. But I have always been very confident in my body. Like, it is my body. I cannot say that I've always loved it, but I've never been the person that just looked in the mirror and said, oh, I hate the way I look today. And that never became a habit for me. Fast forward, I have come across a lot of friends. I've worked with a lot of colleagues, just had a lot of people that have come into my life that they were not as fortunate. They grew up in a home where their moms did talk, kind of hatefully towards themselves. They were very critical of their children, about their physical appearances, and that just became habit. It became the environment in which they grew up in. I also would tell you that we would never look at our best friend or our daughter and say, oh my God, your eyes are so swollen and your teeth are ugly and your skin is bad. But we have no problem looking in the mirror and telling ourselves that. And that's not fair. That's not the kind of love that we deserve to give ourselves. And so the reason that I write this episode is because I know we struggle with self-love. I know that we can certainly identify the environments that shaped our attitudes about ourselves. We can pick apart our bodies, whether you're a male or a female, and say that there's things that you don't like about yourself. But I will say that we have a tendency to give more love and kindness to other people than we do to ourselves. And I want to pose a question to you. Don't you believe that you deserve the same kind of kindness that you give to others? And I'll be the first one to tell you that I'm not very good at that. I am very confident in my abilities. I'm confident in who I am. I've done a lot of work to get that way. And of course, I look at myself in the mirror and see things that I wish were different. I see things that I maybe don't love about myself, whether it's my skin or my nose or my eyes or my lips or whatever it is. But I really work hard to not look at myself and say hateful things to myself, things that I would never want my daughter to hear me say if I had one, or my son, or my daughter-in-law, or my friends to hear me talk about myself that way. So I know it's a common struggle. I definitely know that we are very hard on ourselves, and we are very bad at prioritizing things that we need for, to take care of ourselves or to love ourselves and for our own well-being. So the first thing I want you to do is to recognize the patterns that you have in your life. Do you look at yourself in the mirror and say horrible things to yourself out loud? Do you look at other people on social media and covet the lives that they have? Do you compare yourself to colleagues or people that you think are so much more successful than you are and talk to yourself in a negative way that does nothing but attack you? It doesn't motivate you. It doesn't inspire you. Most people are not inspired or, caused to take action by being berated or criticized or put down. That is not what motivates people. So I want you to ask yourself and take a real hard look at yourself. Do you say things outside or out loud to yourself that are not kind, that are mean, that are hateful? And I want you just to start recognizing these patterns, because that is going to be the first step that you're going to need to change the habits that you've started or encounter. I will tell you that I am my own worst enemy. And not when it comes to criticizing myself. I mean it by the way of I prioritize everyone else above me. As a mom, that's a role that a lot of us fill. We are very accustomed to taking care of our children and whatever energy we have left over at the end of the night or the end of the week is typically still reserved for pleasing our spouses or our friends or our family members, like our moms and aunts and uncles and cousins and everybody, and not necessarily ourselves. And so I just want you first to just recognize where are you on the priority list? Who gets the benefit of your attention and love and kindness and care? Because if you're not at the top of that list, we need to change that for your own well-being. You'll have to understand that this is at the beginning of the podcast for a reason. The work that we're going to do together is you're not capable of doing unless you have a certain amount of respect for yourself, a certain amount of kindness to yourself, a certain amount of compassion for yourself. And I want you to understand that changing our habits and changing the way that we treat ourselves and others begins with observing, what am I doing? Catching yourself in the moment when you hear yourself saying things out loud that you would never say to a 7-year-old child, that you would never say to your niece or your daughter or your goddaughter or your child at all, but we will look ourselves right in the mirror and say very unkind, unhealthy things to ourselves. And then your mind, your brain absorbs that and starts to believe that is truth. And we tell ourselves lies all day long that are not true. So number one, I want you first to start recognizing the patterns that you are engaging in. Is this something that you notice that you're putting everyone else before yourself? You don't take time for yourself. You're not kind to yourself. You're not compassionate to yourself. You're hard on yourself. Is this something that you're continuing to do? How does that show up in your life? Then I want you to work on rephrasing your self-talk. If you catch yourself constantly saying negative things like, oh, I'm so stupid, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough, I'm not capable of doing that, I'm ugly, I'm fat, I wish I were taller, I would, if I could go to a plastic surgeon tomorrow, I'd get new boobs, and all the other things that you tell yourself that you're just not happy with yourself, I want you to first start acknowledging that that's not appropriate way to talk to yourself, that that's not being kind and compassionate to yourself. And then I want you to shift the phrases in a different way. So if I look in the mirror and I say, my skin is awful, I might look at myself instead and rephrase that in a different way and say, I bet if I started using a skincare routine every day for 30 days, I would see a major improvement in my skin. Or I'm going to commit to washing my face every night before I go to bed. Or maybe I need to lay off the sodas or drink some more water or whatever the thing is. But I'm not going to give myself permission to look in the mirror and say, my skin is awful or I am ugly. That is no longer how you're going to talk to yourself. That is no longer allowed. If you would not say it to your 5-year-old daughter watching you or your 7-year-old niece, you cannot and should not say it to yourself out loud. So I want you to rephrase the negative things that you say to yourself in a positive way. Of course, you can make suggestions to yourself of ways that you can change things or improve upon things, but I do not want you to give yourself permission to say things out loud that you would not say to your best friend, you would not to say to your daughter, and you would not say to someone who has a developing self-esteem that you could crush. And you yourself have a developing self-esteem, regardless if you're 14 or 48 or 98. We are constantly in a battle with ourselves and with external factors to like ourselves on a daily basis. And criticizing what you look like is futile. It's not motivating, it's not inspiring, and it's not going to get you anywhere. And what I want you to do is I want you to start complimenting yourself. I want you to find 3 things about yourself daily that you want to compliment yourself for. Like, you know what? You did your makeup really well today. Your hair looks good today. You know what? It's not greasy. It doesn't matter if it looks great. Give yourself a compliment for the small wins that you accomplish. But I want you to start, especially if you are the person who looks at themselves in the mirror and says hateful, negative things to yourself. I want you to look at yourself in the mirror and I want you to say 3 things that you like about yourself. Oh, I love my eyelashes. I like my lips. I love my cheeks when I smile. right? When I'm showing all my teeth. Thank God I don't have really big ears, or I think God gave me the perfect sized nose. Whatever it is, I don't care, but I want you to look at yourself in the mirror and I want you to learn to love yourself. I want you to learn to love what you see. And even if you don't love yourself just yet, and it's uncomfortable for you to look in the mirror and tell yourself 3 lovely things about yourself, then I want you to at least learn how to talk nicely to yourself. You don't have to look in the mirror and say, my God, your eyes are beautiful today. But can you imagine how it would change your outlook if you did? Start with the baby steps that make you feel more comfortable being kind and compassionate to yourself. If you have to envision that 7-year-old little girl watching you in the mirror, then do that. Pull out a picture of a magazine of a little girl and put it on your mirror. Do you want to talk to her like that? Because that's the girl you're talking to. So I want you to analyze your patterns. I want you to rephrase the negative self-talk that you're engaging in. I want you to learn how to compliment yourself and to say positive things to yourself. And then I want you to practice some affirmations that just talk kindly to yourself, that you believe about yourself. Affirmations don't have to be mumbo jumbo, like hippie love fest things, although it would be wonderful if you could be in a hippie love fest with yourself. If you liked yourself so much, but not any words that someone else said against you would ever penetrate that armor of self-love that you have. Imagine if you loved yourself so much that no one else's words could ever hurt you or make you feel some way about yourself, because you knew without a doubt who you were, and you knew that you were resilient to whatever words that they have to try to hurt you because you liked yourself. There's nothing that you can even say to upset someone who loves themselves like that. That's what I strive for you, is that it's not fair that you give all the love in your heart and the kindness of your soul to other people instead of yourself. You're relying on other people to give you the love that you're giving to everybody else. And I'm here to encourage you that you can love yourself in the same exact way that you're loving others. So I want you to start imagining how you do treat others and asking yourself, am I nicer to other people than I am to myself? This episode is really dedicated to my mother. I am grateful that I did have the role model that I had in my home, so that I didn't learn to talk to myself that way, that I didn't learn to criticize myself because I overheard that every day. My mother was not always a skinny woman. She put on weight after having kids and menopause, but I never once heard my mom talk on and on and on about how she was so fat. But the other thing that I loved about my mother is that she will go into public and compliment everyone just to make them smile. She would say, oh, you have a beautiful smile, to the cashier food line. She would greet people with hello, handsome, hello, beautiful. I remember as a little girl say, Mommy, why did you tell that man that he was handsome? I didn't think he was very handsome. And she said, honey, I wanted him to smile and I wanted him to feel good about himself. Maybe it would help him have a better day. And that is who my mother was. That is who anyone who knew her would know, that she would be the first one to compliment you or compliment a stranger. And I think that that was her way of giving other people the love that she deserved as well, that she didn't get as a child growing up. And I would definitely say, to really analyze, are you the person that's complimenting people in public, saying, I love your shirt, or I like your shoes, your hair looks so beautiful? Or are you the person that talks crap about people? Oh my God, look at her nose. Look at that hair. Oh, that person has a mole they should have removed. If you're the person that talks about other people like that, I would imagine you probably talk to yourself pretty ugly too. But if you are the person that's complimenting other people, like they have a beautiful smile, or they really are funny and you're smart, you're very capable, whatever compliment you're giving out to strangers, I want you to try to give yourself some. I want you to ask yourself, why do they deserve your kindness and compassion, but you don't yourself? So I want you to start taking note. What does that look like? We give empathy to strangers all day long. We show patience, kindness, understanding, compassion. When it comes to ourselves, we talk hatefully. We are not patient with ourselves. We have so many expectations of ourselves that other people do not have of us. When we fail to meet those expectations, we're our worst enemy. We punish ourselves. We tell ourselves we didn't measure up again, or we're not capable, or we should just quit because we're not good at it. But we would never talk to our next door neighbor, our best friend, or a colleague at work with that same tone that we find acceptable to look at ourselves in the mirror and tell ourselves. It's not okay. And I want you to stop if it's what you're doing. I want you to look at how you talk to others and say, how would you comfort a friend if they were in this same position? If my friend were planning a huge event, what to wear to a big event, and they looked at themselves in the mirror as they're trying on dresses and asked me, what did I think? I would never say, oh, your butt's too big in that, or I hate the way this looks on me. You can say this just doesn't fit right. It doesn't feel right. But you don't get permission to say you're ugly. You don't have permission to say that your butt is too big. It looks so gross in this dress, or, all the things we tell ourselves. So I want you to ask yourself, how am I treating others differently than I treat myself? Am I showing patience, compassion, and kindness and understanding to myself the same way I do for others? And then how would I comfort a friend that had the same situation? Because I do not think that I would talk negatively to myself if that were the case. So talk negatively to my friend. So let's talk about the impact of negative self-talk, period. I think first and foremost, it erodes your confidence in yourself. It strips away your superpower. And to me, your biggest superpower is your confidence. Imagine what you can accomplish in your world being so confident that you could not fail. Confident that you could attract any man or woman in the room that you wanted. That you could attract bosses to you for promotions or large projects. You can overcome competence with confidence, and you can overcome confidence with competence. But you have got to believe in yourself first and foremost in order for you to achieve the things that you want to achieve. And so I think number one, you've got to stop talking negatively to yourself for the first and biggest reason is because you're taking away your own superpower of being confident in yourself, of truly knowing yourself and liking yourself and loving yourself in a way that nobody could ever take that away from you. No one could penetrate that armor of self-esteem because you know who you are and you know what's great about you and you like those things that are great about you. I would tell you that the other reason is that you're actually messing with your mental health. Every time you look at the mirror and you say something negative and ugly to yourself, you are more likely to also say that out loud if you're going to talk to yourself that way. The mental health, why we struggle so much with mental health is because we don't like ourselves very much. We are struggling because we are a disappointment to ourselves sometimes. We're struggling because we're a disappointment to our families. We've let a friend down, a business partner, a family member. We've let ourselves down. All of that erodes your mental health as well. You're beating yourself up. Nobody else has to beat you up because you're doing a good enough job of it yourself. I want you to stop and recognize that you are just as important as your friends, as your coworkers, as your family members. You are just as important to need to hear those words of kindness and compliments. Your brain needs that. That is also going to help you navigate the rest of the areas of your life and understanding how this negative self-talk and this negative self-image impacts every area of your life when it comes to confidence and how you feel about yourself. And if you're happy with yourself, becoming happy with yourself, if you feel like you're not measuring up to your own expectations, I would ask you, are your expectations realistic? Are you giving yourself credit for the strides that you're making in your life? Are you evaluating those expectations realistically? Or are you comparing apples and oranges? Are you looking at somebody else's finish line and you just started? Where are you in the journey? Are you even in the arena? But you're criticizing yourself, right? And I want to ask you, if you're not measuring up, if you're talking to yourself in a negative way, are you being fair with yourself? Are you acknowledging all the little steps that you took to get there along the way? And are you giving yourself credit for how far you've come? I want you to work on replacing these phrases like, I'm so bad at this, and rewriting those words to say, I'm still learning. Or, I thought I would make more money doing this. I work with a lot of realtors. You got to remember that I've been in real estate for 25 years, and I've done a lot of coaching for realtors all over the country. And I will tell you, most of the agents that I coach, this year and last year were some of the hardest years they've ever had in their career. I had heard them on coaching sessions say things to me like, I'm stupid. I'm not good at this. I'm not as good as they are. I can't compete with so-and-so. All of that boils down to confidence. All of that boils down to the lies that you're telling yourself, the limiting beliefs that you have inside of you that are holding you back from the things that you're capable of. And so I want you to work on replacing these awful phrases that you say to yourself, the criticism that you give yourself. I want you to rephrase those things in a positive way. And so in your workbook activity this week, I'm going to take you through some examples of rephrasing some of the negative self-talk that we say to ourselves and how to say those in a different way that exudes confidence, that is more positive, that is kind and compassionate with yourself. So I want you first to just start with observing these things in your life. Where do they show up? How critical am I of myself? What triggers the criticism of myself? Is it during certain times of the month? Is it, when I am spending a lot of time on social media? Is it during a period of time that's really stressful for me? Is it when my boss is being harder on me or very critical of me? Is it when I'm not having other needs met that I am critical of myself? Or is it showing up when I just disappoint someone else? And then I start to internalize that and beat up myself because I've disappointed them. I think you have to really look at your behaviors and ask yourself, where does this show up? And am I giving myself the kind of love that I deserve or the kind of love that I would give to someone else? If you don't believe that you deserve love, that is a whole other topic. Because no one else is going to love you the way that you should be loving yourself. And until you love yourself, you can't even give that kind of love away to someone. You're looking for that other person to fill a hole inside yourself that really comes from loving yourself first. Because the healthier people that navigate this world, that are looking for love, looking for partners, looking to excel in their career, those healthy people, they have a solid self-esteem. They know who they are. They like themselves. They respect themselves, right? They have done the work of self-discovery and personal growth to kind of identify what makes them tick. What are they good at? What are they bad at? And they're honest with themselves about where they need to improve. So I want you to ask yourself, where does this show up for me? In what ways am I not giving myself the love that I deserve or the love that I should be extending to myself just like I do to other people? I want you to rephrase how you talk to yourself. I want you to eliminate negative criticism that uses adjectives that you would not say out loud to your 98-year-old grandmother. And if your 98-year-old grandmother heard you talking to yourself in the mirror, would she cry and hug you and tell you how beautiful you are? I guarantee you she wouldn't tell you you're right, you're fat and ugly. And I want you to envision that sweet, dear old grandmother looking at you back in that mirror saying, oh, dear child, you are beautiful. And stop telling yourself a lie that is otherwise. I want you to define what loving yourself looks like for you. What could it look like? This is not a podcast where I'm telling you, okay, go draw yourself a hot bath and light a candle and maybe, say some affirmations and get out of the bath and everything will be magically better. That's bullshit. What I want you to understand is that we're not good at taking care of ourselves in a way that shows us love. How can you show yourself love through self-care? And I do have a list for you guys of all types of self-care examples or suggestions, but I want you to find what works for you. I want you to start small with little micro habits of little small changes that you can take every day, or little actions of ways that you can just love yourself. I want you to think about when you're in a brand new relationship with a lover. You're in that fantasy phase in the beginning where everything is new and exciting, and you choose your words carefully. You maybe dress a little nicer. You might put on some deodorant and perfume so you smell good. You want to make a great first impression, so you might get flowers or treat or gift. You are in this exciting phase where you are just super nice to each other. You try not to show your ugliness. You choose your words carefully so as to not offend them, because you're still trying to feel them out and figure things out. That is almost how I want you to treat yourself. When you first start dating someone, they love bomb you, right? They give you flowers and candy, and they take you out to nice places, and maybe they give you massages, or, they take you to listen to your favorite band or to a restaurant you've been dying to see. And what I'm trying to tell you is, if you're willing to do all those other things for someone else, for this new partner, for this person you're going on a date with, why don't you deserve to do that for yourself? Why do you not deserve that same kind of love and respect and fantasy phase of falling in love with a partner? I want you to learn how to fall in love with yourself in that way, and then to treat yourself, because it's important to your mental health. It's important to your well-being. It's important to your happiness and how you navigate the rest of the parts of your world. The high-stress job, the managing the kids, right? The overcoming the trauma or work and addiction and whatever it is, whatever your job in this world is, requires you to love yourself the same way that you would love someone on a second date, or the way you would love bomb them, or the way that you would treat them to roll out the red carpet for them. So I want you to review some of the suggestions. If you don't know how to do any self-care, if it's foreign to you, it definitely is to me. I'm not used to it. I'm not good at it. I don't always think of ways to think of myself or love myself, date myself. So I did give you guys a list. Those are with the resources as well for this episode. One of those activities that I want you guys to do is to look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself 3 things that you like about yourself. Give yourself 3 compliments in the mirror out loud every single day. I do want you to start small with identifying, little small ways in which you can love yourself and date yourself. Start with those micro habits. Then I want you to celebrate the small victories along the way. And then I want you to just add on more and more ways in which you can continue to date yourself and fall in love and be in that fantasy phase of liking yourself enough to not talk hatefully to yourself, and to not criticize yourself, and to actually reward yourself in whatever ways that looks like to you. It is hard for us that are givers, those that are the caretakers of the world. It is very hard for us sometimes to stop and say, I need me time. I need some alone time. I am craving, the ability to recharge my batteries and relax myself, or even take myself shopping for something because I don't enjoy shopping very much, or, whatever the thing is that you want to reward yourself with. You've got to understand that you are not the best mom you can be if you're run down, if you're tired, if you're exhausted, if you don't like yourself very much. If you are in a position of guardianship of a child and you have some influence over that child's development, you want your child to be confident. You would not want your child to say, I'm stupid and I'm dumb and I can't do that. But we let ourselves say that all the time as we get older. It needs to become unacceptable. You're not going to talk about someone I love that way. And I want the person that you love to be yourself. So, to wrap this session up, I just want to reiterate on that last part that, you know, you can't be the caregiver you need to be if you're pouring from that empty cup, but you need to understand that your time, you deserve alone time and time just to be by yourself so that you can process the day, so that you can come back rejuvenated and renewed, so that you can give more energy to a project if you step away from it and give yourself a mental, an hour of mental health break, just of an hour to recharge your batteries, or, 20 minutes to yourself to reflect on, what could I have done differently today in a positive way, or celebrating your wins, 5 minutes a day to yourself just to do that. Find whatever it is, but I need you to hear me tell you that there is no guilt in taking time for yourself to recharge. There is no guilt that you should incur for needing time to process and to take care of yourself. If you're not healthy, you can't take care of other people. And I need you to understand that the way we feel about ourselves is part of our overall health. I have to take time for myself. Because if I am too busy serving other people and I don't take care of my own health, and I just, in this instance, I mean physical health, am I healthy enough to stick around to take care of the people that I need to take care of? We owe it to ourselves, but we also owe it to our children if you're in that kind of position. But you can be driven to succeed in every career path that you go down, but it does not mean that you have to sacrifice time for yourself to recharge or to sleep or to take down time for yourself or your family. You need that downtime. You have to retreat in order to attack. So don't feel guilty about that. So to wrap this up, I want you to be kind to yourself. I want you to practice positive self-talk. I want you to prioritize some self-care. I want you to prioritize taking care of yourself so that you can be the best version of yourself for the others that depend on you. I want you this week to be your own biggest cheerleader. I have people in my life that will always cheer me on no matter what I do. They stay up for me. They stand up for me. They cheer me on along the way. Even with this podcast, I've had so much feedback of people just saying, I'm so proud of you, who've reached out to me to say, I can't wait. I'm so excited. Your voice is very calming or soothing. And, it relaxes me, and I think you say the things that need to be said or that a lot of people don't say. And all of that positive feedback fuels me to want to continue to do this. These people in my life will continue to always show up as a cheerleader for me. I know I can count on them and depend on them because they're my tribe. But what I want you to do is I need you to be your own biggest cheerleader. The person who will stand up for you, who will be so proud of you. The person who does all those things for other people. I need you to show up for you. So I want to know, how are you going to show yourself love this week? How are you going to date yourself this week? Love bomb yourself. How are you going to reflect on the kind of love that you deserve? In what ways do you need to change the way you talk to yourself? Start with the smallest of things. I want you to stand in that mirror and I want you to look at your grandma. I want you to look at your 7-year-old little girl. I want you to look at yourself. And I want you to say 3 things you like about yourself out loud every single day. And then I want you throughout the day to be kind and compassionate to yourself. I think you deserve that. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you are looking for the exercises in the workbook and the resources that I mentioned in this episode, you can check them out in the show notes, or you can email me if you need them. They should be attached to the file where you're listening to this or watching it on YouTube. But you also can email me at hello@thehumanblueprintpodcast.com. Please be kind to yourself this week and join me next week as we talk about personal integrity. We're going to talk about why integrity matters and what that looks like. And I'm super excited because I'm going to introduce my friend Debbie Chamberlain to you, and we are going to talk all about personal integrity. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll see you guys soon. Please subscribe, share this with a friend, and be kind to yourself.